Good morning, good people. It is great to see everyone this morning. And this year marks the 33rd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, one of the most important pieces of civil rights, of human rights, and of equity legislation that we have passed at the national level in the last 100 years, not just the last 33. I guess it was about 5 years ago, I was playing in an indoor soccer tournament and actually ruptured my Achilles and had to use a mobile device to be able to get around. That same year, I happened to participate in a leadership program called the Presidential Leadership Scholars Program and had the opportunity to meet President George H.W. Bush and members of his cabinet and members of the administration that were actually directly responsible for the development and the enactment of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And I found an interesting fact, which was that it was actually the airline industry that held out the longest and was one of the reasons for the most challenging aspects of that piece of legislation. And I had just gotten off a plane to participate in that activity and had a mobile device. And if it had not been for that piece of legislation, I would have had a much more difficult time getting around. Multiply that by 1,000, maybe 1 million, in terms of our community residents who have disabilities across this country. The term equity is used often on this council, as it should be. But we must do more to support our disability community and go beyond this really critically important act at the local level. We are taking steps. We have recently enacted the IDD Commission, which is an important step forward to make sure that we have true equity for our disability community here in Montgomery County and continue to be a leader across this country. We are also fortunate to have really amazing advocates, organizations, and a Department of Health and Human Services that understands and values the importance of equity as it relates to our entire community, but especially our disability community. And so I'm joined this morning by Dr. James Bridgers, the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Patrice McGee, our new soon-to-be Chief of Aging and Disability Services, Pat McGee. We also have Trish Galilee, the Chair of the Commission on People with Disabilities, Matt Barkley, the county's ADA Compliance Officer, Laura Lear, the CEO of Community Support Services, Abu Bakar Kante, the Director of Support Professionals at CSS, and a very special guest in Casey Moore, supported individual who is a member and does outstanding things in our community every year. I would now like to invite Dr. Bridgers to say a few words, followed by Dr. McGee, then Trish Galilee, then Abu, and then Casey. And we are also joined this morning by Dr. Seth Morgan, the longtime chair of the Commission for People with Disabilities, who continues to advocate passionately on behalf of our disability community every year. Dr. Bridgers.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Councilmember Albornoz and the entire council sitting this morning for this proclamation. I'm honored to be here to bring just a few remarks as the recently confirmed Director of the Department of Health and Human Services. We talk about access and equity, but I also like to briefly share my lived experience of a sibling of an individual who had developmental disabilities, and from my perspective as a disabled American veteran. Now, I managed the COVID effort in Montgomery County for almost 2 years, and we had a lot of challenges in the space. I applaud the council for their efforts, for their ongoing efforts to support individuals with developmental disabilities and to also support the new commission. We have a lot of work to do in this space. Access to care, transportation. I was informed that out of the number of individuals who have developmental disabilities in America, 200,000 of those individuals reside in Montgomery County. That's our friends, our family, our loved ones who need support. And the Department of Health and Human Services is committed to those individuals that may be misrepresented or underrepresented. So I thank the council for this proclamation. It's been 33 years since the enactment of this legislation, and to commemorate the anniversary of that legislation is huge. It's a huge sign of support that this council, that this government, that this county has to those individuals who are developmentally disabled or have developmental disabilities. So I thank Councilmember Albornoz for this proclamation, and I thank you for your commitment, and thank you too. And you too. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. McGee.
Good morning, and thank you, Councilmember Albornoz, and the entire council for acknowledging this day as ADA Day. ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, is significant legislation that has been enacted to protect persons with disabilities. We are enriched in this community by the contributions of people with disabilities. We are a better community when we celebrate and we include and we make sure that our infrastructure is accessible for persons with disabilities. So again, just want to bring very brief comments to say I'm thankful to serve in this capacity, and I am happy to be here today to observe the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Ms. Trish Galilee.
Thank you, Council Albornoz and County Council for having us here this morning. ADA is very important to me. It's half of my life has been with ADA, so I'm very familiar with what life was like before ADA. Very challenging to go to the grocery store and have to have your wheelchair lifted over the bars just to get in. Used to have a set of keys to like Heckinger's and all these different places so I could get into the store. So you can only imagine what it's been like. And ADA has not only affected our country, but it's also affected Europe, and many countries have adopted ADA. One of the most significant things that ADA has done is allowed access rights for assistance dogs. And if you can imagine, even guide dogs did not have access rights. And then in 2010, there were additional information about service dogs to really protect the integrity of those that are trained to be the professionals. Not that my boy's being very professional right now. He's very young, so he's still technically a little bit in training. But yeah, I've had a dog next to me even now for 27 years, and the change it made in my life and the independence that it brought me, and the fact that I can take him to work and go everywhere with him, has really, my friend said to me, you're now you look up, you smile, and you are who you really are because you got this animal next to you. And so, things like that can really change your life. And so I appreciate the fact that ADA is there for not only all the accessibility and everything that the county does, but we always go above and beyond, and that's what I appreciate about the county too. ADA is sort of the bottom floor. We do a lot more than that, and that's really important for people to know, is that the bar is very low at ADA. This county goes way above it. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I thought he was great. All right. So now I will read the proclamation. So, whereas the month of July commemorates the most essential piece of legislation protecting the civil rights of people with disabilities in American history, the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was signed into law 33 years ago on July 26, 1990, the ADA protects people with disabilities from discrimination in areas such as employment, public accommodations, and state and local government programs and facilities. We celebrate the abundant accomplishments people with disabilities have made since the passage of ADA, but recognize that there is still much to be done to ensure that people with disabilities have the same opportunities to make their dreams a reality as their non-disabled peers. And whereas, despite the passage of the ADA 33 years ago, rates of poverty, unemployment, and discrimination continue to disproportionately affect people with disabilities. 1/5 of the population of the United States is considered disabled under the ADA by the U.S. Census Bureau, including more than 200,000 residents here in Montgomery County. Every Montgomery County resident will be impacted by a disability at some point in his or her lifetime, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, income, age, economic, or social status. And whereas the Commission on People with Disabilities advises Montgomery County on promoting policies, procedures, and practices that successfully demonstrate equal access for people with disabilities and are better for everyone. Montgomery County is fully committed to inclusion and equality for all residents to reach their full potential, especially people with disabilities. And whereas Montgomery County continues to be a nationally renowned designation for people with disabilities to live, work, and recreate, as exemplified by Montgomery County Parks' successful design, installation, and operation of the accessible boat launch at Seneca Landing at Riley's Lock that provides for inclusion and benefits people with disabilities, disabled veterans, and the general public. Now therefore it be resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby recognizes the month of July 2023 in Montgomery County as the 33rd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And be it further resolved that we celebrate the accomplishments that Americans with disabilities have made to enrich our community as we recommit ourselves to fully realizing the spirit of ADA by ensuring that people with disabilities have equal access to all the wonderful programs and services that Montgomery County has to offer. Presented on this 25th day of July in the year 2023, signed by myself and our council president. All right. Great. Beth. Okay. Yeah, Laura, please. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Excuse me. My name is Laura Lear. I'm the CEO of Community Support Services. We provide support services to people with developmental disabilities. Over 300 Montgomery County residents receive support services from us. And unfortunately, our representatives haven't been able to make it here in time, so I'll speak on their behalf. We have a wonderful individual. His name is Casey, and he has really benefited from all of Montgomery County's efforts to make so many locations and opportunities accessible to him and to other people with and without disabilities, especially Riley's Lock. He loves to go to Riley's Lock, to have picnics with his staff, to walk along the trails there and really enjoy the beautiful scenery. And his support staff, his direct support professional, Abu, loves to go there with him. They play badminton, they play cornhole, they have a picnic. They really love to stroll and see their friends. And especially during the pandemic, Riley's Lock was a place where they could actually go and visit with people safely without fear of being infected. So on their behalf, I want to say thank you so much to Councilmember Albornoz and everyone at Montgomery County for making so many locations accessible for people with disabilities. Thank you.